The Senate will now have before it for final consideration House Bill number 516 as amended in the Senate. The Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill 516 as amended in the Senate by Education Committee, an act relating to education, to revise provisions regarding parental rights in education, declaring an emergency and providing an effective date.
Mr. President,
Senator Lenny.
I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 516 as amended in the Senate be dispensed with, and the Journal show that it has been read the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Is there an objection? Hearing none. Senator Lenny, you have the floor to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to start this off by mentioning a number, $4.4 million. That's a big number. And that's the number that Idaho school districts collect in teachers' union dues every year. And I think it's important to note that they collect those teachers' union dues through taxpayer-funded payroll systems. And that's kind of what this bill is about. And out of that $4.4 million, roughly 1.1 million of that goes straight to the NEA headquarters in Washington, D.C. I'm no nuclear scientist like some people in this room, but that's a pretty big number. Mr. President, the Wall Street Journal wrote an article called "The Teachers Unions Go Woke" in 2021. Can I quote two things from that?
Having cited the source, you may read from the article.
Thank you. So in that article, the Wall Street Journal called the NEA, who we're giving money to here, the ideological and institutional vanguard of progressive politics and a powerful wing of the Democratic Party. That's interesting. I think everybody in here has had a chance to read this bill or some version of this bill or one version of what's in this bill, because it's kind of been around the State House for the last 2 or 3 years in one form or another. But basically what this bill does, let me start by saying just two things that it doesn't do. This doesn't prevent teachers from joining a union, from participating in union activities, doesn't prevent collective bargaining or anything like that. All this bill does, Mr. President, is it simply does one thing. It answers the question about whether Idaho taxpayers should be forced to fund the administrative operations of a private Washington, D.C. based political organization. And if this bill passes, what we're basically saying is that you can't give away taxpayer resources to do the teachers' unions, to do their work for them. I want to mention three things. There's been a lot, so I mean, if people who might be watching or people in this room they're like, what are we talking about? What are some of these activities? There's a lot, but I just wanted to mention three of them that I think that are out there. These things have been documented. One of them is the Boise School District has something called a professional activities stipend. It sounds nice. It's about a little over $1 million a year they spend on that, which is kind of convenient because that's about that amount matches the IEA dues almost to the dollar. I don't think that's a coincidence. There's another thing that's been documented. 51 school district contracts pay teachers to leave their classrooms and do union work on taxpayer dime. That's a little over $500,000 a year when you add it up. And the third one, this one, when I heard about this, I was kind of blown away. This has also been documented out there in Payette. The union contract specifically says the district will provide paid days for teachers to testify on legislative initiatives. So you have, in that contract, you have teachers who are being paid to not teach, but to come down to the State House and lobby us in the building with our own money, with taxpayer money. So those are the types of things I'm talking about here, Mr. President. There's a lot more. House Bill 516, as amended in the Senate, fixes these problems and many more. There's 7 states out there who have already done something like this. So we're not out on some weird limb here. We're actually just honestly playing catch-up with this bill. So with that, debate is open.
Mr. President,
Sarah Ward Engelking.
once again, I guess I'm debating against a bill that, for a profession that I desperately love. But here's the thing, the Boise activity stipend is not for union activity. That is to send teachers and mentors and professional staff to conferences, much like we do, to learn some new information and come back and share that with not only the people in Boise, but teachers throughout the state. That is not union dues. Payroll deductions, yes. I don't know what it costs for the district to set that up initially, but I bet it wasn't much to push that button. We do it for United Way contributions. And here's the thing, this union really is a positive thing for school districts. And I just want to tell you, there's some things in this bill that are pretty, some terms that leave me wondering, what does that mean? On the top of page 5, it says duty status. You can't do any of these things if on duty status. Well, I don't clock in the morning. I don't clock out at night. I have a year-long contract. So what does that mean? I can't talk to my neighbors about an education bill. I can't be involved in the political process, because what that says is it will trigger some pretty significant civil penalties. So I don't know what that means to teachers throughout the state, but I do know this. IEA is made up of your local teachers. We volunteer our time to work on education issues that matter to Idaho kids. We are your neighbors. We're active members of your communities. We're your coaches. And we stand in local parentis when we are teaching. We stand instead of parents. When your children walk into our classroom, they become ours. And we listen to their fears, we dry their tears, we celebrate their successes, and yes, we find a new way when they fail. And as you know, throughout this country, teachers have stood in the line of fire to shield your children. And they would do it in a heartbeat, because those kids in that classroom, they're ours. They're ours too. This bill is not needed. It's punitive. It's not a bill that will help recruit teachers and keep teachers in Idaho. It will drive them out of the profession. I've already heard, in just 2 days, I've heard from hundreds of teachers who say, we can't take it anymore. Why does the Idaho legislature hate public education and public school teachers? I don't have an answer for them. I keep saying, hang in there. Our kids need you. But this bill is a nasty.
Point of order, Mr. President. I think there's some lines being crossed here. I think we should maybe debate the bill. Thank you.
All right. We could talk about guns for a while. Anyway, this is an emotional topic, and we recognize that. So that's what we have the rules of debate for, so that we debate the issue and not the emotion. So, and we appreciate Sarah Ward and her career in teaching. Please continue your debate, noting the objection of some of the members.
Well, I'm not sure what's inappropriate about what I've said, but I will tell you this, the feeling out there in the education community is that teachers aren't valued in this state. And I'm sad about that. I have granddaughters that are teaching. I'm already seeing people that I know say, I'm going to retire early. We have teachers going to other states. And to be fair, they can make more money. And now, I think with this bill, they can legitimately say that we're not being respected as a profession. What we do as a union is we enhance our skills, we collaborate with our districts. Yes, we come down and share our ideas on the bills that we're introducing on our own time, on Martin Luther King Day, virtually, yes. We don't do union activities during our workday where kids are there. This bill is just too much, in my opinion. I'll be a no, and I'm hoping that some of you understand how this appears to somebody who's an educator in Idaho. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate?
Mr. President, to debate the bill.
Senator Cole, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to clarify, children do not belong to teachers or a teachers' union at any part of the day. Children belong to their Idaho families, their parents. Those are the ones who have the final say. I think it's important that we make that distinction. This bill is about whether or not we will use taxpayer dollars to support an outside organization. I think that's totally appropriate, that we are good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. It could be really any outside organization that should not be getting supported by taxpayer dollars, but especially an organization that is actively involved in lobbying and political activities. I think this is good for Idaho, and it's especially good for Idaho's children. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Guthrie,
Thank you, Mr. President. To debate.
you have the floor.
Senators, United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Millwrights, United Brotherhood of Cement, Lime, and Gypsum Workers, United Brotherhood of Boilermakers, Cement Workers, and Allied Workers. So what do those have in common? Well, for 20 years, I worked in the union environment and was a union member of all three of those, having served as a union journeyman carpenter and also as the president of a union. So what's the other common theme? Brotherhood. That equals camaraderie, a unit, teamwork. Examples of that right here on this floor. We're all senators, we're a team, we disagree at times, but we're certainly a team. Look at the military. Look at sports teams. And why is that? There's strength in numbers. There's energy in numbers. It's true. This bill doesn't say that the teachers can't have a union, but for all practical purposes, it guts it. Keep in mind, the hurdles are already pretty high because in 1985, Idaho passed the right to work law. So now, for teachers to have a union in a district, it's 50+1. And guess what happens when they negotiate that contract? The ones that didn't join and don't pay dues benefit too. You know, having been in construction for years and worked in heavy industry, I marvel and I can't resist walking or driving through the town and seeing the tower cranes and the construction and the skilled workers up there working. You know, sometimes when I get discouraged here, I think, man, it'd be nice just to show up on the job and ask for a job, because I really am invested in that kind of work. And I think I can't just show up with a thermos and a lunch bucket and go to work. I've got to be trained. And a lot of that training occurs in union environments, and that's no different than the teachers who train and perfect their skills. Look at this Capitol. I mean, look around. The magnificence of this building, built in large part with union hands and dirt under their fingernails and calluses on their hands, because they had the skills and the training and the expertise and the camaraderie to create a safe environment and a skilled environment. I've been around here long enough to remember that when teachers were really at odds with the legislature, there was not a good feeling and a lot of animosity. But then, gentlemen on the second floor order started recognizing increasing pay, increasing respect. The current gentleman on the second floor has continued that. And we have built towards a more respectful environment for our teachers. You know, having been a proud union man for over 2 decades, I've seen firsthand the benefits of unions. And sometimes we want to attack them like I feel like we're doing, and yet failing to recognize the good that they do. And we can say that it's just about union dues or going to promote union activities. But what it's doing is it's sending a message that is not helpful as we seek to educate our kids. I think some change is appropriate, but I think this bill certainly goes a little too far. And I want to maybe walk through a couple things to express some irony I see. If you look at page 1 on the bill, it says that, I'll just read it, Mr. President, the Board of Trustees of each school district, including specially chartered district designated representative of such district, is hereby empowered to and shall, that's a requirement, upon its own initiative or upon the request of the local education organization representing a majority of the professional employees, enter into a negotiated agreement. Okay? So then when you look on page 2 under teacher union activities, one of them is to engage in negotiations and related mediation. But if you look back to number 4, it says professional employee means any certificated employee of a school district, including charter districts, provided, however, that administrative personnel, including superintendents, supervisors, principals, are excluded from the professional employee group for purpose of negotiation. So we've carved them out. So then on page 3, line 46, is where it says that no funds will be used to promote teacher union activities as prohibited in 13-1277. So under 1277, it says that no taxpayer funds support teachers' unions by, and on D, requiring or coercing a professional employee to meet, communicate, listen to, or otherwise interact with a teachers' union or affiliate. So for negotiation purposes, if the administration basically is no longer a professional employee, that requirement to coerce a professional employee is one-sided. It can only mean that the administration can require. I think that's maybe something we missed there. You know, we talk about whether a teacher comes down and testifies on a bill or not. Let's think that through a little bit, senators. Mayors, county commissioners, firefighters, the list goes on as long as we want to keep naming them, come to this building, as is their right, and they testify on behalf of legislation or against it, and they're getting paid by taxpayer dollars as they do that. When administrators go to a conference and school board members go to a conference in the state, guess who's paying the freight on that? Taxpayer dollars. Think about that. Think about the irony of why we're picking on the profession that we say is our most important. That's to educate our kids. Could we do some things to tighten up on the union dues and stuff? absolutely. I remember on my time on the school board back in the day, and administration would come in and negotiate, and with the teachers union, every single one of those administrative people were getting paid by taxpayer dollars to that end. And this would suggest that now they would still get paid with taxpayer dollars to negotiate, but the teachers wouldn't. And so if you go back to page 1, and if you want to recognize shall, required, negotiate in good faith. Is it good faith if one side is getting paid? And keeping in mind that administrators and maybe attorneys and those professionals are making a fair amount more than your teachers are. Is that in good faith? I don't really care for the way this bill found its way here, but more problematic is the language, and I just ask that you consider that you maybe consider something over the interim to sit down and figure out where the right spot is on this. I don't believe this is it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President, to debate the bill.
Senator Tapes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I think this is being framed maybe as an anti-teacher bill. My grandmother was a teacher. My mother was a teacher. I actually plan to be a teacher someday myself. This isn't an anti-teacher bill. In fact, approximately 30% of the teachers in Idaho, last I checked, are a part of the union. So maybe more of the teachers in Idaho actually stand with us in support of this bill than stand against it, even if you got a lot of emails. And I thought it was really interesting. I felt like the emails as they poured in yesterday were kind of making the point of this bill. It was about 3 o'clock, 3:30 up north. It's about 4 o'clock, 4:30 here. And there was teachers lobbying this body. Now more than ever, we need our teachers directed and focused on teaching literacy, on making sure that the next generation is competent in mathematics, not lobbying, not working on social issues, but working on the hard and good work that they do of teaching the next generation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Senator Blaylock.
to debate the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you. I agree this is not an anti-teacher bill. I obviously support teachers. My kids are in public school. I respect the work that they do every day and their right to organize and advocate for their profession and their priorities. I think this bill is clearly written of what it is trying to do, which is protect taxpayer dollars. I think it draws a simple line between what public dollars should be what public dollars should be used for and not used for. And when we fund public education, we assume that that money is going towards educating kids and not subsidizing union activities. And it's been brought up a few times of these conferences and these things. But if you look in the bill, under the union activities, it says in there representing that one of the activities is going to a conference to represent the union. That would be prohibited unless, if you keep reading, it says unless the school district is participating. So if your school district is going and you're a union rep and your school district would typically pay for you to go to that conference, you can speak on the behalf of your union. We're just saying you're not going to go to a specific conference specifically as a union rep only. And if you do, this bill still says you can do that. We just want to be reimbursed for that from the union. And I have a hard time wrapping my head around how that wouldn't be fair. We're just saying here's the activities. If you do these, the union needs to reimburse the school district. We're not saying that they can't do this advocacy. This bill doesn't stop teachers from organizing. It doesn't silence their voices. What it does is ensure that when unions engage in advocacy, especially within the political realm, it's not happening on our dime, on the taxpayer dime. We have, seen the roles that the unions can play when it comes into the realm of politics. I remember in high school walking into a classroom and seeing campaign signs for the Democrat running against my dad when he was in statewide office. And I think, we've come a long way from those days. I don't think that's allowed now. But we still can see those strong influences. Every one of us in this room, I think, can still call back to strong influences. I mean, even in the last 24 hours, it was brought up some of the emails that have been flowing into our inboxes. That's a coordinated outreach. And a lot of those emails, as I started clicking through them from teachers that I know, had a lot of misinformation in them. And so calling some of those and having those discussions last night and this morning on my way in, and talking through those, there's some misinformation that's being put out there, so to rile up and have that advocacy come to us in this outpouring that will make us question what is common sense. And I have many friends that are teachers, and I send a quick text, the last couple of days, and none of them are part of the union. None of them pay union dues. And so it's difficult for me too when we say that, these are just teachers. Well, it's a group of teachers. It's a small group of teachers, and they don't speak on behalf of all teachers. One last thing that I'll leave on, I spoke with my local district union rep this morning, and we had a good conversation. I cleared up some of the misinformation that she had been given. The big one that I think in previous years was that they wouldn't be able to use their facilities for union meetings. She was surprised to hear that that wasn't in this bill. And then when we talked through all the rest of, the things in here, they pretty much comply with this anyway. So she was relieved to hear that wasn't in this bill. During this conversation, I asked a simple question of how many teachers in the district are actually members of the union. And she told me that she's not allowed to share that number with me. So, think about that for a minute. We have an organization that wants to be completely entangled in our law books, but treated as an independent entity. So I think this bill will help them achieve what they're wanting. Thank you.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Rutke,
to debate against the bill.
you have the floor.
Mr. President, I guess I'm not surprised that there's misinformation out there about the bill. This is a sea change. It affects educators throughout the state. It's a significant change in how we've done things when it comes to teachers' unions. I think we've been doing it this way for decades, in fact, and how we got here does create confusion. It's the exact opposite of how the legislative process is supposed to work. Nevertheless, here we are. I guess the only thing I want to say is this is a continuation of an assault on educators, and it's hard to view it.
The gentleman is entitled to his opinion, as you are in your debate, and he prefaced it that way, so I'll allow it. That's his view of the world. Yours is arguably different. So, and that's what makes the world go round. So,
thank you, Mr.
Keep
President.
the world turning, Senator Rutke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am simply responding to arguments that this isn't bad for teachers, it's not against educators, that people know educators, they have, friends and family, and so if I'm voting for this bill, how could it be bad for educators? I just, in my opinion, I think this is a continued assault on education and public education. in this state. It really is hard when you put it in the context of all the things we have done just in the last 5 years or so to view it any other way than maybe as the pièce de résistance on our efforts to degrade public education. And I hope we get this out of our systems and we start to rebuild education. We should be seeking out the best and the brightest in this state and asking them, begging them to become public educators, to work with our kids, to help them achieve the best that they can be. We should be on that path, not the path that we're on now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Sarah Anton.
I just wish to say to the President that we have a long-standing tradition in this body that we do not impugn the intentions of another senator. And I'm hearing a lot of that today. We need to stick to the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Noted. I can be tougher, but you guys don't need that all the time. Sometimes you do, though. Senator Van Orden.
Thank you, Mr. President. To debate the bill.
You have the floor.
Good senators, there is a lot that I agree with in this bill. Some concerns, as I'm a former school board member. Concerns that I saw when I was serving in that capacity. So there are a lot of things in this bill that I do agree with. But I think there needs to be maybe some more sit down to address some of these things, maybe to address some pieces of it that people are not agreeing with. And having said that, I think there was an opportunity to do that. So I wish we could sit down and redo this bill. So I will be a no.
Further debate.
Mr. President,
Senator Lakey.
to debate the bill.
Do you have the floor, Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I think I didn't like the process that got us here. But now we have a bill. And from my perspective, that means I look at the merits of the bill and not what got us to this particular point. In my opinion, this legislation is not about hate. If we disagree on something, that absolutely does not mean that we hate the person we disagree with or hate their perspective. I think that's the problem with some that are involved in politics today. The IEA are members of a separate voluntary entity. They don't represent or reflect all of the teachers or all in the profession. And this doesn't limit their membership or participation. I waited to debate until I listened to everybody and what they had to say. I've got good friends that are members of unions, and they do good things. But I think this bill is pretty simple. IEA is a separate private organization, and they should keep their activities separate and private. Keep doing good things, but do those without public dollar support and on your own time as a member of a private entity. Thank you, Senators.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Galloway.
to briefly debate the bill.
You have the floor.
I'm going to support this bill, and I wanted to stand as a former public school educator that taught second grade and sixth grade, and let my colleagues know that while I taught in the public school system for a short time, 20 years ago, I have been an educator for the rest of my life and will always be an educator. And I feel that there is nothing in this bill that would cause any harm and just allows people to continue to serve in their capacity as teachers and make sure that they keep the politics out of the classroom. And I feel confident with that, and I will vote yes on this bill.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Lenny, you're recognized to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's a lot I could say and a lot I want to say, but probably I don't think that's going to change any minds at this point. One thing I did want to say, though, is as a product of the public school system myself, who has a mother who taught public school for 30 years, I was talking to my mom about this bill, and she loves it. She taught public school for 30 years. I think I've heard some things in the debate today that actually I'm wondering if that aren't even in the bill, I guess. I've heard a lot of peripheral things, but not much about the specific bill. You know, this bill simply says teachers and unions can do their thing and engage in certain activities. Taxpayers just should not be the ones footing the bill. So with that, debate is closed, Mr. President.
Debate is closed. The question before the Senate is, shall House Bill number 516 and it pass the Senate? The Secretary will call the roll.
Adams. Anthony. Byrne. Bierke. Blaylock. Burtonshaw. Carlson. Cook. Den Hartog. Foreman. Galloway. Grow. Guthrie. Harris. Hart. Kaiser. Cole. Lakey. Lenny. Lind. Nichols. Okonowitz. Robbie. Ricks. Ruckty. Semaroff. Shippey. Taylor. Taves. Van Orden. Ward Engelking. Wintrow. Woodward. Zito. Satterveld. Adams. Anthony. Bierke. Burtonshaw. Foreman.
The vote count shows 20 in favor with 14 against and 1 absent, a majority having voted in the affirmative. House Bill number 516 is amended in the Senate, has passed the Senate, and will be transmitted back to the House.